And it is that time, 7:10 in the morning. It is the SHOPO Hour. Brother Bobby has some time off. Brother Steve on assignment. But in studio, we have the irrevocable force of the opinions, information, expertise, and cash, evidently, because Critch came back from Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
And there we have it. Brother Nick, I wish you a very, 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 very good morning.
Good morning. Thanks again for having us.
It's a pleasure to see you, my friend. And Brother Mark, aloha kakahiaka.
Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday.
So you have returned safely.
I have returned. Had a good time. Met my brother over there. He retired.
Yes.
And then caught a Golden Knights game.
There you
I
go.
love hockey. So,
yeah.
And, man, besides the game, just the entertainment around it. It was awesome. It was a really good
They
hockey
put
game.
a Cirque style or quality of show together.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's just,
it was good. And
unreal.
Then, of course, the food, Want me to give you the rundown?
I just told the boys I'm on a new diet, and you're going to bust it all out.
Oh, you could eat on this diet, man.
Did you
we
just
went,
tell me? Did you go?
Golden Steer.
Ah!
All right, Golden Steer. Wow. We got those big Australian oxtails with
4 pounds
steak.
of butter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Porterhouse. Jeez.
Then
You
one
got
night,
porterhouse?
Yeah, I got a porterhouse.
Solo.
Oh yeah. Hey, it's Vegas time. Then Carmine's one night.
Carmine.
Then Lowry's, of course. Got to go to Lowry's.
Got to go to Lowry's, man.
And then after the game, so Friday night, the game let out about 9:30. It's like we were going to go to Gallagher's. I'm like, I don't know. Went to Shake Shack. That's the first time I've been there. Awesome.
It's good. When I was in L.A. this last trip, went to Shake Shack.
Yeah,
First
it was
time
awesome.
ever.
Yeah, it was good.
It was good. It was about $700 less than the other places you went. But
That was good, though.
That's good.
It was a good time.
And how's Brother John?
He's doing good.
Yeah.
Doing well. And then, it's not sinking in that he's retired, but I go, when you get back from the trip, just think about it. You don't have to wake up at 4 in the morning.
I can relate to that. That would be tremendous.
Yeah.
Glad you're back, brother. Glad you're back. We have a special guest with us today as well. Brother Nick, would you mind the intro?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, our Maui chapter chair, Nick Krau.
Thank you so much. Good morning from Maui.
What's up? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I had some family commitments today, but thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We're going to cover a lot of ground today, and Maui Nick and Brother Nick and Mark, we're going to cover ground together, the three of us. Usually it's driven by news, information, etc. So, Maui Nick, we're going to come to you specifically for the Valley Isle, if you don't mind, in a moment, but want to open it up to Brother Mark and, should I just say, Han Nick? Would that be Honolulu Nick? Top of mind, and not relegated simply to SHOPO, if there are events, etc., that has captured your respective attention. Brother Mark.
I got a couple, but this one really, and you covered it in your last show, this Death to America chant stuff, right? So think about it. You get these idiots chanting Death to America and all this. How do you think they're going to respect our police officers on the street or our law enforcement? So think about it. That's what we're dealing with. That's what these guys are dealing with out there. So that's one of my top of minds.
So we're all proponents of free speech. And I don't deny people whatever they, but you have to understand, with freedom of speech comes freedom of consequence. And what's transpiring in Dearborn, Michigan, Chicago, Illinois, other places, that's the most disconcerting aspect in my mind that we have before us. Huh, Nick?
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to our law enforcement brothers and sisters out there on the mainland who are in these situations where they're, trying to essentially find a balance in public unrest or people out there that want to express themselves, I just want to say thank you for doing your best in those kinds of situations. We all know how difficult it can be to have to be the referee But often your police officers, your law enforcement, that's part of their job. It's to ensure that people's rights are respected, but also at the same time that public order is maintained. Not an easy balance. If you look throughout the history of this country, particularly in the last 100 years or so, you'll see that there are quite a few cases of notoriety where police officers had to be out there holding the line to make sure that there was equal play on both sides. But given the particular message that's being broadcasted currently and the fervor behind it, it's I think a bit more difficult than it was in the past.
Sure, absolutely. And Maui Nick, love to have you in the conversation. Your thoughts over this past week or so? What's top of mind with you?
Hey, if I can chime in on that freedom of speech, yeah, all for it. That's our job, to protect the Constitution and protect people's rights, and all for free speech. But there's certain things, that where that you can't walk into a busy, crowded building and yell fire. There's certain things. There's certain limitations to that, and death to America. I would think that would fall into that category. But again, I don't make the laws; I just enforce them. Other than that, Maui's 2024 has been a decent year so far. 2023, we had some unprecedented challenges in the fires and in many other things that occurred. But Maui's been sticking together and pushing forward. Our officers have adapted well and forward. So everything's good here.
Do you mind if I ask, and please, Jensen Studio, opine as well, relationship with Chief Pelletier and with Mayor Bisson? What's your viewpoint in regard to support and advocacy for the men and women in uniform on the Valley Isle?
That's I think they, whether or not, it's one of those perception things. They might think they're being supportive, but if you were to ask the majority of the officers, I don't think that they feel that they're being supported as much as they should be. And and that's changing with the times too. 1 month in it might need a little more support than the following month. So it's it's something that you can't just do at certain times. It needs to be done at all the times, at all times. And I think we could all do better in that area.
Understand. And Mark, Nick, thoughts, or we'll continue with Maui Nick here.
Talking about the support, and that's why it's so important for the upper management of the police department to get down and talk to the rank and file. Don't stay up in your area, and you got to get down and talk to the people. And even if you just say hello, good morning, and how you guys doing, it means a lot. So you got to get down and talk to them, even at a higher level.
August 8th, Maui Nick, I'm still recounting and remembering as much as possible what transpired and reminding folks of just how dedicated MPD was in a situation that there may be a plan, but oftentimes goes out the window because of the immediacy, the spontaneity of the situation, and things that you can't control or even anticipate. I'd like for you, if you wouldn't mind, would you please remind us of the day and what has transpired since that leads us to April 15th?
Okay. That was one of those disasters, one of those emergencies you can't plan for. You can have a basic disaster plan in place, but for that specific disaster, that specific day, we all have to remember that there wasn't just a fire in Lahaina. There was an even larger fire in Kula, at the same exact time, which is 45 minutes, to an hour away. So there was dealing with multiple fronts there on that fire. So, it really tested our resources and, our ability to respond to more than one disaster at the same time. And, I think, we all learn a lot, but I think, you can't prepare for something like that. You have to do more on the prevention aspect. And I think that's where there were a lot of failures in preventing. We all knew everyone knew there was going to be a fire in Lahaina. Everybody knew it. It happens every 4 or 5 years, in that same area. No one could have predicted the size and the speed this fire was moving. But we all knew there was going to be a fire there, and it just there wasn't enough done to prevent it. No greenways, green belts, no barriers around the subdivision, fire breaks, that sort of thing. Nothing like that. So, and then I don't want to get into whatever the problems were with the electric company. That's going to go through litigation, and hopefully you'll find out more about that. But
yeah.
So it's
not. I feel reticent to bring us back to that time, but I'm also a strident supporter of us not forgetting. I did a program last week where I took the chronological aspect of reporting in various sites and sources, and even I was reminded of what was the immediate response, but importantly, leadership at that time and in subsequent days, weeks, and perhaps even now, where there's so much that was not addressed, or at least explained, or at least a transparency. There was so much control over messaging, to the point where when there were press conferences, reporters were chastised and given absolutely no leeway. You got one question. We don't like your question. You can't ask it. And if we don't like you, we're going to remove you. I mean, that's an observer's paraphrasing. But when I was learning and reminded that there were Maui police officers that literally saw their own homes up in flames, and yet they were dedicated to help and assist others, brother, I'm chicken skinning right now.
Yeah. And that's something unique about Hawaii. Is that a lot of places in the mainland, it's like a lot of people have a rule where you do not work in the community where you live. A lot of police officers will commute 30, 45 minutes to an hour in a lot of parts of the mainland because they don't want to work in that community where they live. But over here, that's a reality. You're gonna work in the community you live in, and I think it makes our police officers do a better job and care more, because when you respond to that call, that might be your best friend, that might be your grandma calling, that might be your mom calling, somebody you know and care about. So they're a lot more vested in the community here, and that makes us unique, and but it also creates situations where you might respond to a call and it's your house on fire.
We're talking with Maui Nick and Honolulu Nick, and that's the best I can do, brother.
It's okay. That's what they call me at SHOPO.
There we go. So I'll stick with Hon Nick and Brother Mark. Could you share some more insight from your perspective about living and working and answering and defending your own neighborhoods in some cases, Nick?
Yes. So Maui Nick is absolutely right. We have it in several places, policy and contract, where officers are not required to. We essentially live in the same communities that we patrol, and there are not restrictions that say that you don't have to, or you cannot live in the same place that you work. Essentially, you can. With that said, it's common for us to encounter people or situations where we're kind of already familiar with who we're dealing with, or the neighborhoods we're dealing with, or what the underlying problems are. Interestingly enough, we also have it in contract that we're not allowed to strike and we're not allowed to lock out. So your police officers may have an opinion about something, but we're not allowed to just say, okay, well, you know what, we're deciding we're not coming to work today over this. We don't do that. We still show up, no matter what the politics are, no matter what the situation is, no matter what's happened the day before. We still have an obligation to get out there and do it, and so we do it. It's a unique perspective, and I think it's one of those tiny little things that adds a touch of personality to how we do things out here compared to mainland municipalities. I've said it several times, law enforcement across the country and across the world is very much a brothership and a sistership, because we often encounter the same types of problems worldwide. But at the same time, when you're vested in the neighborhood that you're actually responsible for patrolling, you do end up taking it to a different level. And I think that's also one of the reasons why police officers in Hawaii and here in Honolulu are really expressive about how dangerous the situations are staffing-wise for law enforcement statewide, because we don't have the ability to just simply walk away from our community and commute an hour to somewhere else where things might be a little bit better as far as social services, outreach services, law enforcement services, and so on. No, we got to live in the middle of it. So we're not only responsible for keeping it safe, but we got to actually physically exist in it at the same time. That's a level of investment that is much greater, I think, than you would actually see from some of the police officers that work on the mainland in this country. And I just want to say to Maui Nick again, from the Honolulu chapter, I mean, we're really proud of the work that you did and the union officials did out there during the Maui fire, and also of our brothers and sisters in Maui that actually had to go out there and see the carnage, see the disaster, and work through it. We went out there and helped out where we could and got a little taste of it as far as observation-wise, but there's nothing to compare as far as it actually happening to you, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of strange to think that it was in August. I mean, it's like there's a lot of time that has passed, but there's really not a lot of time that's passed at all.
Amen. Amen. Brother Mark?
Yeah, so I'm going to go, I'll just say both Nicks, okay? Is that
Got
good?
it.
All right.
Just don't say New York.
Ditto what both Nicks said. So
yes.
With the community, right? I mean, when I was working, I responded to, my neighbors, friends, family. You're going to respond to that because we're such a small community. It's a big island, but it's not, So, and like they said, we're vested in the community because of those things, right? And sometimes we can resolve problems better because of that, because we know the people,
right.
And then, and they care more for their communities because of that. So, as far as Maui goes, my hearts are out to those people because now it's up to the politicians and they're going to screw it up. I really feel bad for those people over there.
Wow. The sentiments with those whom you encounter on the Valley Isle, Maui Nick, could you give us just your assessment of morale, mood, tone, of where we are today on the Valley Isle, especially West Maui?
Ooh, with you're talking about the community or the officers? Sorry.
Both, actually, because through
both.
the eyes of officers of what they encounter and experience.
Yeah. So for for the community, it's it was a really tight knit community. Out there, there were there were in most of them don't live in that community anymore. They live on other parts of the island now. In temporary housing until they can rebuild or whatnot. But I mean, they haven't even put a dent in the cleanup of all the material and stuff. So it's you're looking at some time still, and it's I'm sure everybody wants to return to their homes, because you think, you have your family, you're living in a home, and, you have a home, you pay a mortgage, but you're actually living, in a rental somewhere, some smaller places that they're staying in. And it's just, having to move every few months or so. It's just not much stability for their family. And I'm sure they want to get back to as normal as possible, as soon as possible, so they can really start to heal and start to recover. Because, that's not until they move back to their community and, have their homes rebuilt, it's hard to, it's hard to recover and heal from something like that. So that's tough. And, as time goes on, I imagine it's going to get harder. The officers, I think same thing. A lot of them, live out there and they care about the community. And every single day, they're going to work and they're driving past, the town they used to patrol. The people they used to greet, every day, wherever, Starbucks or, the local coffee store, wherever they're going, those aren't there anymore. So, you're patrolling a district where, half the district is not there anymore. And it's hard. I can't imagine what they go through every day driving to work, patrolling every day, that place to be patrolled for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years is just not there. And, I know that weighs heavy on them as well.
I'll tell you, first of all, thank you for being with us and sharing, because many of us are thirsting for information, because the information that we receive is primarily through the eyes of politicians and bureaucrats and assurances of this and that. And my sense is there has been somewhat of an abandonment that's caught up in the bureaucracy of federal, state, local, water rights, FEMA, hotel. I mean, to the point now, I think I read a story where there's going to be a cessation of meals, which up until now have been provided. And that's coming to an end. And the responses you hear is like, whoa, wait a minute. We're far from being self-sufficient because of these various conditions. So I want to thank you, Maui Nick, for sharing. We're going to get into more details about Maui PD. There's some good stories to share, and also do a compare and contrast. In some areas, I have crime rates that I've gleaned from the official HPD site that I'd like to bring up to all of us. We'll do that at after the bottom of the hour news break. Guys, I'm so glad you're with us here on the SHOPO Hour. Welcome back. It is the SHOPO Hour. It is 7:39 in the morning. Excellent program. Maui Nick joining us. Han Nick is in studio. Brother Mark in studio. We've been having a conversation, and thank Maui Nick so very much for his perspective on the Valley Isle. What I'd like to do is go ahead and acknowledge Brother Nick. I understand that there are 19 new members of CIT, and once again, if you can hear me now, 19 new members of CIT on the Valley Isle. Could you share some details about that? And would you comment and share with us recruitment efforts and the force capacity that you now have with Maui Police?
All right, yeah. So the crisis intervention team, CIT, is officers that are specially trained in handling, people when they respond to people who are having a mental health crisis. And, it's a great tool to have and to help our officers, communicate with these individuals. And these calls are just getting so frequent, where we're getting a lot of our calls now do, involve people who have mental health issues. And it's difficult because, there's not much resources. There are not many resources here for them when they're having these types of, emergencies or these situations. And they call the police, and it's tough because they don't belong in jail the majority of the time. It's just, it's just a person who is having, like I just said, a mental health crisis. So it's, and we want to help them, but there's not a lot. As the police, there's not a lot we can do. And everyone basically, calls the police as the problem solvers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this guy's, or this lady or this guy, they're acting bizarre. Call the police. And, we get there and say, okay, well, this person didn't commit a crime. They're having a mental health emergency. And, what resources do we have to, we don't have, facility to take them, to get them that mental health care, other than take them to the hospital. But there's no really long-term facilities, at least on Maui, to treat them and get them the help and the medication that they need.
How about here at home, Mark and Nick, that's very, we've had discussions in the past, but you get it all. And the determination of a crime being committed, that's the barometer, that's the benchmark. And our folks, citizens, have to understand that a little bit better, because you'll hear and all the responses. So could you share more about that? The determination of intervention is based on the commission of a crime, but then again, you do take extra steps on top of that. Mark?
Yeah, like Maui Nick was saying, call the police. They'll solve all the problems. Call the police. We do respond to a lot of mental health crisis, right? And then exactly the way Nick was saying, there's not too many places we could take them. And number two is they didn't commit a crime most of the time. So what do you do with this guy? We could take him to Queens if they meet a criteria, right? If they don't meet a criteria, what are you going to do with this guy? So where are all you advocates out there, politicians included, for all your social workers that's supposed to take care of all this stuff? I know they were screaming about that years ago, right? Where is it? Because that's what's needed, not the police. Get you social workers out there. Get these guys some help.
I think under the Blangiardi administration, there's been some advancement with the creation of CORE and mobile interventions. But on the ground, Brother Nick, is that true, and is it helpful from years past?
I think it is, yeah. Over my time as a police officer, I've seen our responsibility in these types of situations increase steadily and more and more and more. I think if you listen to the average patrol call volume in downtown central Honolulu, Kalihi area, in East Honolulu, you'll see that a good number of the calls that come in on a daily basis have to do with homeless people or a combination of homeless, mental health issue type of situations. So I applaud things like CORE. I think CIT is a great program. The Honolulu Police Department's been using it since roughly 2018. I actually graduated from the first CIT class in the department, so I'm very proud to say that. The techniques do work. There's a lot of really good de-escalation tools and techniques you can use there. And they teach the officers a lot of the nuances of how to intervene and try and get people de-escalated in their crisis situation and then to the appropriate source of assistance. As a law enforcement agency, our primary responsibility is to enforce the law and ensure public safety. As you said, a lot of the times people who are in mental health crisis are not breaking the law. People are calling because they're watching somebody who is having strange behavior, disturbing behavior, or someone is calling and saying, listen, I feel really horrible right now and I need help. It's not necessarily illegal,
right,
to feel that way or express yourself that way in public, right? But we need to help them. We need to get them some type of an assistance. So they may not be arrestable. They may not even be somebody who qualifies to be taken to the psych ward at Queens. But there may be other sources there, crisis outreach, other organizations that we can sort of segue them into. And that's one of the things that a CIT officer is trained to do. It's not just sort of add some balance to the situation so we can get the person focused or kind of help in making an assessment of the person. But it's also to kind of determine, okay, what is the right path to get this person in for help? The other interesting thing about law enforcement responding to these mental health type situations, and you may not know this, is that often we go on what's called a co-response. So a co-response would be emergency medical services has gotten a call of someone feeling suicidal at a residence. Okay. The co-response is EMS is requesting police to come along because this person has claimed that they're suicidal. And sometimes homicide and suicide go hand in hand. Okay. So there is a safety concern for the responders in general who are going to these calls. More often than not, it will be the police officers who have to be the primary point of contact or the initial point of contact. And that just has to do with what we carry on our belts and how we're trained to handle situations like that. So what you'll hear is EMS is requesting a co-response at this address for a suicidal male. They are staging. And what that means is that EMS is essentially going to wait until the law enforcement officers at the scene have determined that the scene is safe, and anybody else, EMS, HFD, whoever, can come in and assist in the assessment and then the correct placement or whatever help this person needs. So we talk about the increasing amount of responsibilities that cops have. A lot of people don't know that we actually have that responsibility as well. We may not necessarily be the best avenue to help a person out, but we typically are the first person through the door.
Right.
And since we're the first people through the door, we have to get all of this extra augmented training in order to help.
And I have to get it to a break here, and if a call of a potential suicide is taken and you do enter the premises and the individual is poised or in a position of committing, however, for whatever reason, CIT works or the advice that does not, is that a crime to potentially commit suicide? And if that's the case, what happens to the individual after that event?
So long story short, it is not a crime to attempt suicide or to think about it. It is a crime to assist in facilitating suicide to a certain extent, but it's not a crime to take your own life or consider it. And in a situation like that, once we get the situation safe and under control, we get the person de-escalated, and for lack of a better term, you know, in a way so that we essentially can control them. We take steps to see whether or not this person meets a criteria for involuntary admission to a hospital for psychiatric evaluation. That's the easiest way to put it.
Gotcha.
And if they do, then we're going to take them from that location to the hospital.
Thank you for that very much. With Hon Nick and Brother Mark and Maui Nick, we're a very short break, and we'll continue our conversation till the top of the hour. Stand by. There's more of the SHOPO Hour.
It's the SHOPO Hour on News Radio 830 KHVH.
Welcome back to the SHOPO Hour as time remains, and thank you for being a part of the program. I was wondering if I could turn to Maui Nick, and thank you so much for joining us. We discuss on a regular basis staffing levels at HPD. What's the situation with MPD?
You know, it's people are resigning and retiring just as fast as they're being hired. You know, I think we have the exact same amount of vacancies today as we've had, 2 years ago when Chief Pelletier started as our chief and said that he was going to make, recruiting a top priority. And it's just, because they always talk about recruitment, but they often leave out retention. And we got to retain these highly qualified, good officers that we already have working for us. And they're not doing a good job of that at all.
That's tough to hear. Can I ask you this, brother? And it's might be inappropriate, but I'm just curious. Whenever there's a concern that is raised regarding fundamental business or basics of the job, is the invocation of the wildfires the escape to address or directly decide upon things that are pressing for our officers on Maui?
I think, and I think that's I think politics use that a lot. Our officers do not. Yeah, right. I don't. They don't. I don't know anyone that has resigned or retired because of the wildfire. But yeah, I think a lot of different agencies and groups use that. That I don't want to say excuse, but they use that unfortunate disaster, for a lot of things. Yeah, to be an answer for a lot of things.
We have just a couple of minutes remaining. So if I could ask, recently SHOPO was able to secure COVID hazard pay for the Valley Isle Forest. I know, gentlemen, Mark and Nick, are we still in the midst of finalizing? And what was the key, Maui Nick, to achieving that agreement?
I think it was, with Maui, I think, a lot of it's just, relationships, relationships with, it's a smaller community. We have, you see, when you go to Costco, you see, you run into council members, you run into different lawmakers and stuff. And I think we just have, a better relationship for some of it. And, we were able to talk through it. And there was a real open line of communication between the mayor's office and myself. And we were, just back and forth talking and discussing. Mm-hmm. They wanted to do the right thing. We wanted them to do the right thing. So, I think that's what it came down to, just doing the right thing. And, for our officers and relationships, being able to work with them, because we fortunately we didn't have to go to arbitration, which is expensive for everyone. It's expensive for everyone. You get attorneys involved. It's always usually more better when we can work it out before getting to that point, and save the time, the money, and the headaches, and also save the potential risk of damaging our relationships by having to go to court and battle it out there.
Understand. Thank you very much for sharing. And Mark and Nick, what's the status with Honolulu?
In Honolulu, we've gathered quite a few applications. Our arbitration was complete last year. We had an arbitrator's decision. I think Nick hit it right on the money. The theme is do the right thing. So we had to battle it out. We did. We won. We've been doing right by our members. We collected all of the applications. We continue to try and ask the mayor to negotiate a settlement beyond that. But our first responders in Honolulu, Maui, Kauai, the Big Island, we're the people that were at the biggest risk out there. There was no remote working for us. We didn't do anything from home, and we didn't have a choice. We had little to no PPE whatsoever. The calls kept coming in. We don't have the ability to say no. We don't have the ability to strike. We went out there. We did our jobs. All right, we were at risk. You can't argue with that. So we continue to press on, and we hope for a settlement outside of that. But that's where we're at.
Okay. Go around very quickly and start with you, Brother Mark. We have just a few moments remaining. Final thoughts for today.
Yeah, I want to give you an update on a former HPD officer, Detective David Eastley. He's with the King County Police Department in Seattle. If we mentioned in the show not too long ago, he was shot in the abdomen.
Yes.
Okay, so I talked to him last week. It was really good. He was my old beat partner when we worked in Kahala. And so he's in recovery mode. He lost a kidney. His other kidney is functioning, but not doing well. He's on a donor list right now for another kidney, but he's doing okay. And he's waiting to retire, but he's waiting for all this to,
kind of
get all settled up and all. But he's in good spirits. He always was. He was always a jokester. So, but he's doing as well as he can be. Let's put it that way.
If you could share our support.
And that's one thing I want to let these people know is you hear it on the news, officer got shot, he's doing okay. But it's just the years and aftermath of what these guys go through. Got
it. Understand. And thanks for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Nick, we have about 10 seconds. I want to bring Maui Nick on for a final thought as well.
National Police Week starts May 12th, so buy your blue lights to put up in your garages and your porches now.
Done. Thank you, Brother Nick. And Maui Nick, we have about 10 seconds. Final thought for today.
And just a big thank you to everyone throughout the state who's supported Maui during the wildfires and who supported our police officers and continue to support our police officers in Maui. We appreciate it. We love all of you, and thank you all very much.
Thank you. My goodness, what an hour together. Thank you, gentlemen, for the SHOPO Hour.